What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I'm your host, JT. You know, even when you thought Lamar Jackson reached his potential, he couldn't get any better. He found the way this season to get into an even deeper bag and to elevate to a level that we've never seen him at before. And I want to lead off this episode by discussing how Lamar Jackson has transformed into a football god. Now, if you're a Browns fan and you already hate Deshaun Watson a lot as it is, the fact that you're getting scammed by him for $230 million fully guaranteed, you're going to hate him even more because due to how bad of a contract he has and how much of a bind it's put the Browns in financially, this could force them to have to trade away Myles Garrett during this offseason. And Russell Wilson, not only did he fool me, but he fooled a lot of Steelers fans this year because it was assumed that he was finally going to be the answer to the Steelers' lingering issues at quarterback. And over this last month, the Steelers have lost 4 straight games, and Russell Wilson has been a big part of that. And it looks like due to his lackluster play, the Steelers are going to be an easy one-and-done team come playoff time. And Mike Tomlin's playoff drought is going to continue for at least another year. Before we dive into it, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon if you're new so you don't miss when we drop new content and when we go live. And remember that we're not just a YouTube channel, we are a podcast. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, Amazon. Links are down in the description down below. Give us a 5-star review if you enjoy and you want to support us. Now let's dive into it. If you are creating a quarterback in Madden and you maxed out his stats, 99 speed, 99 accuracy, 99 throw power, this is what Lamar Jackson looks like in real life. There is nothing that any team can do to stop this man. So he finishes this regular season with 41 touchdowns through the air and only 4 interceptions, along with 900 rushing yards. This is one of the most efficient quarterback seasons that we have seen since Aaron Rodgers won MVP back in 2020 when he finished that year with 48 passing touchdowns to 5 interceptions. I said it before and I'm going to say it again. If Jesus played football, he will look something like Lamar Jackson. He can run all over the field with 4.2 speed. He has a rifle for an arm, and he's throwing with a high level of accuracy and precision that we've never seen him have before. He is not the second coming of Michael Vick. At this point, I feel like it's a little bit disrespectful to keep saying how Lamar is a better version of Vick when they're just two completely different players. Michael Vick was never as good as a passer as what Lamar Jackson is. What Lamar is, if you had to give him a comparison, is Aaron Rodgers on crack, because Lamar is so great at being able to make magic happen outside of the pocket. Not only is he deadly once he gets outside of the pocket, but he's carving guys up from within it too. And then if you want to try to make him become a runner, we know what he does with his legs. At this point, Lamar Jackson is the perfect quarterback because he can do everything necessary for you to have elite talent at this position. I mean, we are never going to see another quarterback with the talent that Lamar has ever again in this league. Jaden Daniels is nothing like Lamar Jackson. He gets hit way too much. Lamar only gets touched when he wants to. We are witnessing a quarterback that has just transcended what it means to be the definition of a dual threat quarterback. He has evolutionized this position because think about how many ultra-athletic quarterbacks have been drafted high that wouldn't have been drafted in the first round before, prior to Lamar Jackson's arrival in the league. You got Anthony Richardson, Justin Fields, Jaden Daniels, potentially Jalen Milroe. all of these guys are getting compared to Lamar Jackson, and a lot of teams are hoping to strike gold that they can find the second coming of him, which is causing a lot of GMs and a lot of head coaches to get fired because there won't be another Lamar. He truly is a unicorn. This is a unique player because we have never really seen somebody who could just do so much damage and so many different facets of the game. When you play Lamar and the Ravens, you have to pretty much change the entirety of your defensive scheme. That's how much of a headache he is. And moving forward, going into the playoffs, if Lamar plays at this level that he has for the entirety of this regular season and the postseason, I don't see how the Ravens don't end up hoisting the Lombardi trophy when it's all said and done. Like Bill Belichick has said countless times on his podcast during this season, the only team that can beat the Ravens are the Baltimore Ravens. And the big reason for that is because of how good Lamar Jackson is. I mean, this is an insane stat line. 41 passing touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. Only 3 or 2 of those are actually on him. The other ones came with the receivers letting the ball bounce out of their hands and fall into the hands of a defensive back. I mean, Lamar has been nothing short of brilliant this year. And at this point, he just is a football god because there's nothing that he can't do. And I would take him over Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. To me, he easily is the best quarterback in the league, and he's the most talented quarterback that we have ever seen enter the NFL. We've never seen a QB have 4.2 speed, but throw the ball like he's Aaron Rodgers or Brady. That's the kind of level that Lamar Jackson has elevated his game to. He has kind of entered Super Saiyan Blue when it comes to quarterbacks. Now, if you already have a lot of hatred for Deshaun Watson due to him scamming the Cleveland Browns for $230 million fully guaranteed and everything that he was wrapped up in when it came to the massage therapist and whatnot, you're probably going to hate him even more because due to his contract, he has strapped the Browns so badly financially that they might have to move on from future Hall of Fame edge rusher Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett, once again, probably is going to end up winning another Defensive Player of the Year award with how well he's played this season. And in spite of that, the Browns might not be able to keep him around because they have to free up enough cap space to improve the offensive line, to get a few more pieces, to make this a better team than what we saw during the 2024 NFL season. And the only way to do that is by freeing up some cap space, by getting rid of Myles Garrett's contract. He also probably is going to seek an extension. And if the Browns want to get out of this Deshaun Watson nightmare, they're going to have to do so by either drafting his replacement or having enough money freed up that they can sign somebody to compete with him during training camp, because you don't really have tons of cap space as it already is. So if you can get rid of Myles Garrett, plus you can get about 2 first-round picks in exchange for Myles Garrett, maybe 3, because he's not only a future first ballot Hall of Famer, but he could go down as one of the 5 best defensive players all time. So you can get a large haul for Myles Garrett in return if you were to trade him away. And this can help you draft some high-end players that you can fill areas of need, since you won't have the ability to do that in free agency. And the Deshaun Watson contract may be the biggest mistake in the history of the Cleveland Browns franchise, because this contract has been so bad that not only have you gotten an ineffective quarterback, somebody who, when he's on the field, he's arguably the worst starting quarterback in the league. I mean, I would take Bryce Young. Hell, give me Anthony Richardson over Deshaun Watson. Not only is he arguably the worst quarterback in the league, but you have somebody that's just taking up so much money that for you to have more money to spend to improve other positions of need, you have to get rid of an all-time great. And I would be a huge fan of Myles Garrett getting a change of scenery anyway, because they're wasting him the same way they wasted the prime years of Joe Thomas. I don't know what the Browns were thinking when they made the decision to give Deshaun Watson $230 million guaranteed with everything that he had going on during the offseason. At that point, it's like they just ignored all the red flags, and they thought they were getting the same player that they saw play for the Houston Texans. They thought that they were getting an upgrade over Baker Mayfield. They believed that Deshaun Watson was going to be the quarterback that they've been searching for so many years, who could finally get them over the hump. And instead, it's been a complete polar opposite. Instead of ascending to the next level, that being a premier Super Bowl contender, you have gotten gradually worse year after year with this cancer in your organization, because that's what Deshaun Watson has been. He's been nothing but cancer. Nothing good has come out of this move by getting Deshaun Watson in that trade for Houston. You shipped off a ton of future first-round picks that could have made you even better than what you are now, and then you have to move on from a talented player like Myles Garrett to just be able to field a competitive team due to how bad this guy is. And you reworked this contract, but all you did was give him more of his guaranteed money up front. So it makes it easier for you to cut him once this upcoming season is over. But I mean, it's just sad to be a Browns fan right now, because Myles Garrett, not only is he beloved by many Browns fans, but he's beloved by the community. And he's been the only bright spot for what has been a dark and gloomy season for the Cleveland Browns. And it's just sad that Deshaun Watson could force the Browns to have to trade away Myles Garrett, because if you keep Myles Garrett and you have to extend him, where are you going to get the money from? Because you don't really have any. And then if you sign him, I mean, you're going to be throwing out third stringers at this point next season. So you kind of got no choice, and it will help you to rebuild. Because let's say you end up being trash again next year with Deshaun Watson, and you end up picking in the top 3. Well, you could use that pick to either draft Arch Manning, or, maybe you trade back, get another quarterback like Drew Waller, and then you can use that with the additional picks that you would get out of a Myles Garrett trade to continue to rebuild this team. But the Browns have no choice but to rebuild again, because that's how bad of a situation Deshaun Watson has put you in with all of the money that you have wrapped up into him. Ever since Ben Roethlisberger has retired, the Steelers have had a dismal quarterback play. And coming into this season, Steelers fans were hopeful that Russell Wilson was finally going to be the answer to the Steelers' longtime woes post Big Ben at quarterback. And at one point, he looked like that answer. But over the last month, when the Steelers have played against the toughest opponents on their schedule, the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Bengals, they've lost all 4 of those games, and they're on a 4-game losing streak going into the playoffs. And it looks like they're going to be nothing more but, once again, a one-and-done playoff team. And Mike Tomlin's very long playoff drought is going to continue for at least another year, because Russell Wilson can't cook anymore. He's not good. And during this Bengals loss, going into halftime, Russell Wilson was like 5 of 12 for 45 passing yards. Russell Wilson, he got the Steelers to this point, but he isn't any better than what the Steelers have gotten out of the quarterback position since the retirement of Big Ben. He's nothing more but a more mobile version of Kenny Pickett. And the mobility isn't really that big. And the Steelers enter the postseason on the 4-game losing streak, on the brink of being an easy one-and-done playoff exit. and Mike Tomlin's very long playoff drought continuing because of how ineffective Russell Wilson has been as the Steelers quarterback. He throws a really good deep ball. He has a little bit of mobility, and he's a veteran. That's about it. If anything, Russell Wilson has severely limited the Steelers' offense. Arthur Smith isn't the problem. His play calling has been pretty good considering the limited quarterback that he's had to work with. Russell Wilson is having the same issues in Pittsburgh that caused him to get benched and cut for a record-dead cap hit by the Denver Broncos. He can't see in the middle of the field. He doesn't have the mobility outside the pocket to really buy time for guys to get open. All Russell Wilson is go balls and deep passes down the field. And if you can take that away, he's nothing more but a 2-3 yard check down merchant. He is no better than what Kenny Pickett was as the starting quarterback in Pittsburgh. And I feel bad for Mike Tomlin because he gets a lot of criticism. It definitely is deserved, but the main reason why Mike Tomlin is coming up short is because he's in the division with two of the best quarterbacks in the game, and Lamar and Joe Burrow. And it's hard to win in this league when you have quarterback play that is a significant downgrade from what the two top teams in your division have. And until Mike Tomlin can finally get a long-term solution to this lingering quarterback issue in Pittsburgh, he's going to continue to come up short. You know, he can get the Steelers to 9-8, 10-7 consistently. Maybe they overachieve and get the 11, 12 wins occasionally. But the same thing is going to transpire come playoff time. You're not going to get far because no matter what, you're still going to need elite quarterback play to win. And it's a quarterback-driven league for a reason. And most of the NFL's best quarterbacks reside in the AFC. And what the Steelers keep doing is they keep getting these quarterbacks who they believe are good enough. Russell Wilson was supposed to be good enough. And all off season, I was really skeptical about Russell Wilson. I was his biggest critic, and you probably could have called me his biggest hater. And I came around on him after the win against the Washington Commanders. I thought that if he was able to sustain that level of play come playoff time, the Steelers would be able to make a deep playoff run. But now, with how this offense has just fallen apart, if you can't get the run game going and you can't throw those moon balls to George Pickens, then he's just a low-end quarterback. And the Steelers now have to find ways to win in spite of Russell Wilson, because you see how the ending of the Bengals game went. You know, for him to be a veteran quarterback, he looked like a rookie out there. You expect him to throw the ball out of bounds, not get tackled inbounds with one timeout left, time ticking by the second, and yet he just thinks it's a smart idea to just get hit. You know, and Mike Tomlin, he took too long to burn the timeout. When you see your quarterback makes an awful low IQ football decision like that, you got no choice but to burn the timeout, even if you don't want to, because you still have to set up time for Chris Boswell to kick the potential game-winning field goal. And as easy as it is to harp on Mike Tomlin, you can't blame him for the quarterback situation that the Steelers are in, partially because he's such a good coach. The Steelers are never in contention to draft any game-changing or franchise-changing quarterback in the draft. So you're regulated to what you believe is the best you can get in free agency. And I felt like Russell Wilson, for how he has played, has been pretty good value. You know, he's only getting paid $1 million. But if the Steelers were to re-sign or extend Russell Wilson for 3 years, $30 million, I probably might consider not being a fan of this team anymore, because it shows that they're not serious about trying to compete for Super Bowls. You see, Mike Tomlin always likes to say, the standard is the standard, right? But the standard is no longer the standard that it used to be. The Steelers used to be a first-class organization in the NFL that was always being talked about for winning it all. They were always in the Super Bowl conversation. And ever since 2010, that loss to the Green Bay Packers in the Super Bowl, the Steelers have done nothing but allow their standard to drop year after year. This went from being a playoff team where you expected them to make it to the playoffs, not celebrate it because it was expected for them to get to the postseason, and you expected for them to win playoff games and at least make it to the AFC Championship. But now we go from being a Super Bowl contender, that being an expectation, to the expectation being making it to an AFC Championship, to now the expectation is we should be satisfied with 10-7 seasons, Mike Tomlin being able to pull out a winning record, and nothing more than that. And I say that's just BS. It sucks being a Steelers fan right now because it's the same old year after year. Trash quarterback play. Mike Tomlin finds a way to overcome it with a stacked defense. Cam Hayward having a career resurgence. TJ Watt having once again another Defensive Player of the Year caliber season. And yet you have nothing to show for it because this defense carries this team so much to the point where sometimes they can't get a break. And Russell Wilson, you know, he had a little stretch when he was solid, not great. But now we see with how ugly the month of December has gone and, you know, the last week of the season losing to the Bengals that he just isn't the answer. And there's no reason to bring him back on another deal. If anything, if he wants to run it back on another cheap $1 million 1-year deal, I have no problem with that. But bringing him back for a longer deal than that is just pure insanity because he's not only going to get worse, but the Steelers are also going to get to a point where they might end up having to part ways with Mike Tomlin just because he's just so fixated off this mindset that he can win with anybody at quarterback. No matter how good of a coach you may be, you still need competent quarterback play. And Russell Wilson has been anything but a competent quarterback these last 4 games for the Steelers. He needs to go because Steeler fans were duped out into thinking that this guy still has some juice left in the tank when, in all actuality, they were fooled because he has nothing left. Russ can't cook anymore. He doesn't need to be allowed to cook anymore because all he's cooking up is more disappointment for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I would be really upset if they end up bringing this dude back for another year in Pittsburgh because I don't want to see any more of Russell Wilson and the black and gold. It just disgusts me how the Steelers have to go up against Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, and they keep throwing these bum-ass quarterbacks on the field. Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, Russell Wilson. The Steelers are one of the most recognizable brands in the NFL. They're one of the most popular franchises in all the sports. And yet, they can't get a top-notch quarterback for a reasonable price. You mean to tell me that you couldn't have gotten a Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold for a franchise that has the reputation that it has? They have done a poor job post-Big Ben finding a way to replace one of the greatest players that ever laced up the cleats for this organization. And at this point, they just keep falling in the same rinse, wash, and repeat cycle with these quarterbacks being the main reason why.